Hey, good morning, Doug Pagitt Radio. The December 27th edition of the radio program. Hi, Victoria.
Hi.
That was my little my little what's it called when somebody has a little thoughtful thing, not a little montage, a little little nostalgic, a little wink toward, what's that word? Some French word. To my own
homage.
An homage. Thank you. Not a montage. My own homage to the to my childhood and
and mine. That was a great
my
show.
Christmas. Everything for me when I was a kid, 6, 7, when Christmas was good, when Christmas made sense, was Batman.
That was
that TV show.
It was a great show.
It was fantastic.
Tights
and as an adult, I've thought about that show and I thought those were adults. Those were
Yes,
adults dressed up in those outfits.
I know.
Like when you're a kid, you don't really put those pieces together, right? That these were adults that are like running around and putting animation of pow and wham and bang over the top of it and the jokes and I guess it was a spoof and then kind of caught on. I don't really know. But happy Christmas to you. Happy Christmas to all the listeners too. Hey,
happy
really
Christmas, everybody.
Yes, really glad to have you all as listeners. You are the Christmas gift to this radio show. You listeners, you people that get us up.
You were saying me for a minute.
You get us up on Thursday. Oh, really?
You said you looked right at me. It's like, what?
Well, we're doing radio.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
well, you too,
all.
Victoria. You all, but you too, Victoria. You are a Christmas gift to the show.
Doug Pagitt, your Christmas gift to us all.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. It's very, very kind of you. Hey, and this is also going to be our end of 2012 radio program. So we're going to be reflecting on the year of 2012.
Do you have top 10s for us?
I don't. I couldn't even come up with them. For
you
some
can't
reason,
come up with 10 things? Or?
I could have come up with, I guess, I'm not a list person, though. Are you a lister? Do you come up with lists? Do you do that? Do you like rank things? Do you
no,
see? I don't do any of that stuff. Yeah, I don't believe in it. Yeah, I'm morally opposed to it. I'm like a list atheist.
I am.
A atheist.
I don't know. Maybe I'm agnostic about lists.
Yeah, speaking of atheists, on the show today, we're going to have Brian Dalton, who's the creator of MrDeity.com, and he is an outspoken skeptic of religion. And I'm going to ask him about this, in fact, because I find him to be more of a critic of religion than just your typical atheist. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to suggest to him that I think there's 3 kinds of atheists.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, 3, kind of in 3 big batches.
Uh-huh.
Like there's the ones that just don't think there's a God, and they're just like, seriously, like philosophically, there isn't one. There's those people, right? And that's a totally different conversation than when you're having a conversation with the people who don't think there's anything spiritual in the world. Mm-hmm. But there's some people who don't think there's a God, but they're highly spiritual. Mm-hmm. And there's other people that are just like, there's no spirituality at all.
There's
nothing.
Material existence.
They're kind of science materialists, right? They're not the philosophers, just we don't think there's a God type. And so sometimes you're in different conversations with these people. And then there's the folks that are really highly opposed to religion. They're the anti-religious people. Mm-hmm. And I'm quite comfortable with that camp myself. I mean, I get those people. I understand that. But anyway, I wanted to ask him about that. So Brian's going to be on. He's quite a funny guy. I've been a fan for a long time, and I'm actually quite nervous about having him on the show. I'm all Peter Patter.
Are you tweeting?
I'll be tweeting out that yes, we're gonna have Brian on the show, and I was even nervous about inviting him.
You
but
were?
I was totally nervous.
Did you do something special when you asked him? Did you?
No, I just wrote an email and said, "Hey, I do the show. Would you mind coming on?" And he was so gracious and so quick to reply. I mean, he's probably like, "Yeah, I love this stuff. That's what I do. I'm a public personality about these kinds of things." But anyway, I've been a fan for a long time.
Well, I'm excited. I'm a new fan.
So if I had a list and it was things like that I wanted to accomplish in 2012,
that would have
probably would have had Mr. Deity on my show.
And
see, I guess the reason I don't like lists, this is coming to me now, is because once you some people cross something off their list and they feel a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, that annoys me.
I don't feel accomplishment at all. I feel like that was no way as good as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like when I look forward to something and then complete it, I always have this little dip.
Yes.
Do you get that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like when you finally.
I have to prepare for it. Actually.
Oh, you have to emotionally prepare.
Mentally prepare for the dip. Or I always try to say, oh, it's not going to happen this time, because I think there's this big stress or something,
I see.
and I'm going to feel great afterward. And I think, no, I really never, ever feel great afterwards. So why don't I just try to prepare? So I have to have a good thing right afterwards to start.
Something else. You have to roll to the next thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I wonder if other people do that. My son Taylor, who's now 22 or something, 21, 22, and is gigantic. He's become a man, and he's a large person anyway. But he's become a man. And the other riding in the car, he was sort of reflecting on the fact that, and this is kind of a Freudian father thing, a father-son thing, but that he could physically pummel me now, right? So, and he was saying that, and I said, and he goes, "Oh man, after all these years, like I finally," and I said, "A little disappointing, isn't it? That, like you've gotten to that point, you finally have experienced that thing when you were a kid that was like, someday I'm going to be big enough to be able to beat up my dad." I mean, he doesn't want to. He's not violent, but just that whole notion, right, that he wants to be stronger than his dad. And he reaches it, and then he's like, it's just nothing really there. Yeah. So that's why I don't care for that unless. And people do these top 10 lists and all that kind of thing. Do you make lists going into the next year?
No. No.
You don't. You don't make a resolution.
No.
Have you ever made a resolution?
No, not on New Year's. No. Yuck.
Oh. But you've made other ones.
Well, I'll have things sometimes that I want to do. Like I'll have goals.
And you state them as
But I have to be very careful about that because I'm really hard on myself if I don't meet a goal. And so I'm almost better off just having things that I'll say, oh, I'm working towards this, or I'm on this path of this thing. But to have some big thing that I'm
some
trying
concrete
to
statement
do,
written down somewhere. You're going to do
like
this thing.
The marathon is a case in point. The fact that I could not run that stupid marathon
still haunting you.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of anti big thing.
Oh. See, I had a friend that asked me, he said, do you ever make New Year's resolutions? I said, never.
I mean,
and he's like, seriously, never? And I thought, I don't think I have ever once. I don't have any opinion about whether people should or not. I have no idea. I don't even know why people do it. I have no clue at all.
I mean, people make a big list of things that they never accomplish and they kind of feel bad about it. Like, it's better, I think, to ongoing have things that you're working toward.
Yeah. Okay.
In a general way, but I'm very opposed for myself to have a particular day where I say, oh, now's the time when I'm going to figure out all these things that I should be doing. Like, that'd be so self-defeating for me and my personality type.
Well,
so
I'm sure there are people out there who are. I mean, they're all penned up now. Like
everybody at the gym. I'm going to be so annoyed at the gym next week because all these people
everybody will be in there.
These yahoos. Yeah.
Like for a week, 10 days.
Yeah.
Taking up the machines, not knowing how to use them.
And they're going to all be like in this post-carb induced, low.
Oh, so they're all going to be a little crabby.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to have any energy, and they're working out on your machines.
Get those people out of there. Yeah.
Well, I don't have any. I feel no angst about the new year at all. But 2012
Why would
was.
you feel angst? Do people get angst about the new year?
Oh my gosh.
Why? What's there to be angsty
because
about?
it's a time of counting up how things have gone.
Oh, so we have to take stock.
You take stock
I'm
of your life.
always taking stock.
So maybe that's it. Every day is your new year. No, I know people that they're so into this kind of stuff, and they sit down and they make big commitments, and they make commitments themselves, and they look at their commitments from their past. I know people that keep long lists, like from multiple years.
My husband's a big list take stock kind of guy, and he'll do this sort of thing. It's true.
He'll measure. He'll measure the value of his life.
Yes. Yeah, he probably is doing it right now. I don't know.
I stumbled into, like, the biggest change for me in 2012 was getting into this running, because I hadn't run at all, ever. In 2012, I started running and run marathons. I'm going to run an ultra marathon. And so it's even become a bit of a, not only the Christmas, changed my Christmas list, but, it's something I spend a lot of time on. And I had no plan at all to do that. I sort of stumbled into it, and now it's what I'm doing. So there's something about personalities, maybe, like ours, that like that kind of thing, right? Where you're just going to fall into the next deal.
It happens.
And you feel a lot of pressure by the planners, because there's this whole theory in our world that it's people who kind of know what they're doing who accomplish what they want to accomplish.
Yeah, there there is a theory about that.
You know that, and you hear it in a lot of ways. You make your plan, you plan your work, and then you work your plan, and
otherwise you just squander your time away.
Yes, like what are you doing, and what are you up to, and how are you measuring, and are you sure that you're accomplishing anything? Do you have goals in your life? Do you have goals at work? I mean, all these kinds of things. Kind of a goal-driven life. I mean, I'm a quite ambitious person. I don't I don't just sit around and think I don't want to do anything.
Busy doing
I'm
things.
busy. But that even gets critiqued by the plan people. They're like, well, how do you know you're not doing the thing? How do you know you're doing the things that you're best at? Like all that kind of taking stock thing. It all comes to a head at New Year's. Like this is the holiday, next Monday or Tuesday, whatever it is. This is the holiday where that perspective gets praised.
Well, I have been thinking more about
the plotters,
thresholds and transitions and kind of how they can be a bit mystical. I mean, I think that somehow that switching, that midnight hour can be kind of an interesting, is it more magical or loaded, or I don't know. I mean, I think that's what surrounds this idea that it's some kind of bubble of something.
Of significance.
Yeah, of significance. And that when you step through these thresholds, that things shift. I was thinking about it more because it's been showing up in my poetry a lot, this idea of thresholds and moving through. And so, I don't know.
Well, I do think you're right. I do think there is something about that. There's something when everyone on the planet, I know it's not everyone, but most everyone on the planet has a shared experience of some kind, right? Grief can be this way, or celebration can be this way, or these transitions can be this way. Holidays are like this. And when there seems to be some magic in the air. Yeah. Whether or not that's connected to the notion that a person can plot their life and take stock and make changes, and like that kind of self-defined, that pre-planned, self-defined change and activity. That's what's curious to me, because I think you're right. And if one finds themselves in a new situation in life, that seems really exciting and full of intrigue and wonder. This notion that from the position you're in now, how things would be better in the future, which you haven't been to yet. But you know what's going to be better, and you're going to now arrange all the energy of your life, or all the activity, or all the resources of your life toward this end. It's not natural to me, so I can look at it a bit askance, right, and be easily critique it. But I do think that we live in a world in which we ought to back into things a little more often. We ought to stumble our way forward.
I like to be open. Like sometimes I think when I get too set, too prescribed. Now this happens to me in my day. Like I've got this agenda for the morning, and this is how it's going to go. It might kind of happen today because my kids are off of school and they like want to play and mess around. I'm like, no, we got to get in the car. We got to go. We got to get over to the radio. And I think you miss out on opportunities where you can be intuitive with the moment and be creative with the moment. And so I worry sometimes about people with big agendas and plans and schedules and New Year's resolutions and all these shoulds, and they make themselves feel really bad about them. And I just kind of worry a little bit that they might be missing out. I think there should be maybe a balance, like trying to be thoughtful and intentional, have some moments to reflect, but then be flexible and open. That's what I'm striving for.
I hear you. I think there's something to that. And I'm not concerned that those people need to be different so much. I don't know if that's what you're saying either, but I don't worry that, hey, you're probably putting too much pressure on yourself and you shouldn't be that way.
I feel sad when I hear people say that, like a lot of shooting on themselves.
Yes. My concern is that people who aren't because if you're a planner and you're a list maker and you're predicting the future and allocating your resources to it, you can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
So you're just going to be that way. But then there's a lot of people who aren't that way. And my worry is not that the people who are the predictive planners are going to be sad, because I don't think they are. I think the other people who aren't that way feel a social pressure to be more like those other folks.
And we're
And
just
I
freeing
hope
them
that
up.
people should be, I hope people are encouraged to say, look, if that's not you at this time of year, I know this is when people start to be like, oh man, maybe my life would be better if I were more like
Make
that.
New Year's resolutions.
Yeah. And
It's okay. Be free.
Be free. Just, you know, just
You don't have to make resolutions.
do what you want. Who
Yeah.
cares? It's all going to die in a fiery ball anyway. Who really
know.
cares about any sort of goodness is going to go on all these things?
Just going to feel guilty and bad anyway. So just, you know.
Hey, in just a moment here, and if you're listening on the the podcast, you can just hang tight. And if you're watching on the video, we're going to roll over to the Cripes Come On, You've Got to Be Kidding Me segment, where we come up with a 3 things in this world that are not the way they're supposed to be, and we lament them, and we talk about them. So we'll be back here in just a minute.